The bow and arrow choke is one of the most brutal finishes in Jiu-Jitsu, but most people only use it in one way. Today I'm going to show you 5 different variations of the bow and arrow choke, and at the end of the video, I'm going to show you 3 different ways that you can set it up so you can immediately implement it into your game. My name's Nathan Haddad, I'm a black belt, and today we're going to look at the bow and arrow choke. We're going to start today from a side seatbelt position, and I'll show you how we can get there, but right now, my partner's on his side, and I have a seatbelt grip. I'm underneath Max's head. I'm underneath his arm here. My hands are connected. The first thing that I want to see from here is a good grip. And when you're doing bow and arrow chokes, it's very, very important that you can maintain a solid grip on your partner's collar. One thing I tell my students a lot is you get one chance at this. So what I don't want to do is grab loose in Max's collar here or shallow to his neck and then try to move forward and get into finishes. Because even if I get to a very strong finish, if Max gets hands on my hand, I can't make this grip any tighter. So when I go to make my initial grip, it needs to be a good one. What I like to do here, and you can test this yourself with your own gi, is strip the collar. So I'm going to take my right hand that's underneath Max's armpit, and I'm literally going to pull his collar straight to take all of the slack out. Once I feel that I have the slack out, my left hand is going to cut, like my thumb is cutting his neck all the way through, and I'm going to make a strong grip in the gi collar here. So I'm very close to Max's neck, and one thing that I do is I have my wrist where I'm looking at my own wristwatch here. I don't want to have my wrist curled out. Okay, I want to be tight this way, so that way if Max's chin wasn't there, I'm just staring directly at my wrist. From here, now I have the proper grip to finish. But if I'm looking to finish bow and arrow chokes, I'd like to be in a technical mount or on the back. So how can I move there? If Max was just wide open from here, I would just step my foot. But in most cases, our partner's going to be tight here, trying to not let me get to mount. My right hand is going to go low in Max's opposite collar. And the first thing we're going to do is expose mount. I'm going to drive my right elbow down to the floor, and I'm going to start walking my hips back and to my left to flatten Max out. I'm going to use my chin here to push Max's shoulder down, and I pull him flat this way. From this position, I actually can put enough pressure to choke Max here. By keeping this low collar grip and my left hand in the high collar, I'm just going to raise my left elbow and I get a strong finish. The problem with this, it's going to be very hard to submit somebody because they're going to grab on your elbow. And now from here, I can't put the necessary pressure. But if you notice something, I've walked Max flat. So now it's a much easier thing for me to take mount. Okay, so initially we were here and his knees were tight. When I start putting the heat on his neck, I can extend him out. Again, if he's tight this way, I strip, I catch, and I walk. When I take him flat, he grabs on my elbow like this. Now look what I'm going to do. I'm going to change my base towards Max's hips. I match his hips. As I slide my left knee close to his butt, my right foot steps over in the pocket and I slide up into a technical mount or S mount, okay? With my left knee underneath Max's head, my right foot posted, I still have both grips here. Now I'm in a great position to start finishing our bow and arrow choke. So one more time, just the setup to get to mount. We start side seatbelt here. My right hand's gonna feed, 1. I take my left hand, look how I go deep in the collar. I'm looking at my wristwatch, my right hand's a low grip. As I put my chin in Max's shoulder, I walk everything back. Feet flat and together here, I want to draw him back. If Max has no reactions here, I just raise my elbow and I get a strong finish. But when he reacts, he's pulling on my elbow to stop that choke. I'm going to change my base and I'm going to step, sliding my left knee high, and now coming into S mount with my same grips, we're ready to get to some finishes. Now let's talk about, once we've made it into a technical mount, how I can look to submit my partner using bow and arrow chokes. We're going to look at 3 different variations from this position, okay? I started in the side seat belt, I stripped, I caught the collar. As I walk Max flat, he grabs on my elbow, so I change base and I come in to an S mount position. Now from here, how am I looking to choke Max? I generally look at this as a 1, 2, 3 motion. My left hand stays in the collar, and guys, I'm making sure that my left elbow is tight to my hip. If I open it like this, Max can pull and slip his head out the back. So I want to make sure that my elbow's tight enough to my hip, where if he tries to pull, it's just a useless thing. My right hand is low on this collar right now, But the first thing that I'm gonna do is take my hand elbow to elbow, and I'm gonna raise my chest up. And what I'm looking to do is straighten my left arm, and I'm going to literally push like I'm dusting off my gi or like I'm chopping Max's head off. Okay, so from this position, the bow and arrow looks like this. I go elbow to elbow, chest up. My hand goes to my shoulder, and I press, getting a strong finish on my first bow and arrow choke. So I'm literally raising the elbow and chopping Max's head off. One more time. We have the nice grip here. My right hand reaches deep, elbow to elbow, and I raise my chest up. I put my left hand on my shoulder, and now look how I extend my left arm, chop the head, and I get a strong finish with my first variation of a bow and arrow choke, elbow to elbow. Sometimes I'm here with my partner, and I'm trying to do this elbow to elbow choke, and he just gets very tight. And so, again, I'm in this position, but I can't raise Max's elbow up to get where I want to go. So in cases like this, we move to our second variation. Our second variation is going to be a hand on the knee. And in these two first variations that we look at, we're staying in the top position, okay? I like having options like this. It's never a bad thing if I have a great strong submission where I sit off to the side, whether that be an arm bar, a bow and arrow choke, a triangle, what have you, if I'm starting on the top. But it's helpful to start in the top position and maintain the top position. So sometimes if you can, it's not a bad gig to stay on top. This is gonna be one of those. I'm here in S mount. I have my left hand deep. I'm trying to go elbow to elbow, but Max gets really tight here. I'm gonna retract my right hand. I'm gonna grab on Max's knee. And now from here, I'm gonna bring both elbows to the sky, and I'm gonna show you what's on my t-shirt. My chest is gonna come up. So you'll notice I start kind of hunched here. Look how I bring everything up, and I get a strong finish. Knee and elbow start raising to the sky. I'm coming up as tall as I can. A little cue you'll notice here too, I am always in this position, live toes. When I'm in S mount, I'm here, live toes. Okay, we'll get into that in just a minute, why, but right now, I'm this way. I don't want to be flat-footed, okay? So, one more time. We are here looking at our bow and arrow choke. I stepped into technical mount. I have live toes. I try to go elbow to elbow, but he tucks. I can't get it. My right hand comes free. I catch on the knee, and I raise both elbows high to the sky, and I get a strong finish on a bow and arrow choke, raising the knee. Now, sometimes we look at this position, and we try to go elbow to elbow, and we try to go knee to knee, but our partner's really, really tough, and he gives us great reactions the whole way through. A good reaction that Max can give me when I try to go to this knee is to cross his feet, kick them straight, and then what guys will actually look to do is slip their head and log roll away. It's a good defense to the bow and arrow. So I'm gonna counter that by going to a full bow and arrow and sitting, taking the position. So we're here, same grip. I try elbow to elbow, he tucks. I try to take my hand to the knee, but look how he crosses and grabs. Big problem now. What I'm gonna do from here is sit on my bow and arrow choke. And a big problem that I see a lot of people do is they sit to too big of an angle and they actually pull their partner on top of them. I'm not looking to do that. I wanna be teed up to Max here. So the way that I do this is by leaning forward and to my right, much like I would on an arm bar, stepping my left leg over, sitting, and then crossing my feet over Max's shoulder. And you'll notice from here, I'm sitting tall. What I'm not doing is allowing the bow and arrow to make me fall off to an angle, okay? I don't like to fall to an angle if I can help it because I can maintain a much tighter pressure when I'm in this position here. All I'm looking to do now is if you've ever done an upright row, I'm rowing, pulling my elbows back as I sit straight down. I don't want to go at any angle here. If I fall on my left shoulder, I'm actually taking Max out of the choke. If I fall on my right shoulder, I'm elevating his shoulder off the floor. So what I like to do is staple this shoulder down, and now with a tight grip, all I need to do is sit back, and I get a strong finish on a bow and arrow choke. So one more time, we're here. Notice the position. I control the knee. Look how Max kicks his leg straight to not get choked. I have to lean forward and to my right, and my left leg swims over. If Max is keeping my elbow, I use my foot to push, and now I cross my feet. From here, I sit everything back, elbows to the floor. I get a strong finish. You'll notice I don't even make it close to the floor because I only have to go here. Okay, Max, put your head towards the camera for me. So from this position, just so you guys can see some different angles, look at where my foot is. See how it's windshield wipered underneath me? I don't want it to be like this, okay? If Max bridges into me here, he can hurt my knee, so I prefer this position here. Now, with a tight grip, catching on the knee. As Max extends, look how I'm gonna lean forward, and now my left leg comes over and sits. I cross over his shoulder. From here, I just sit straight back. There's no angle involved, okay? Even if Max is holding on my hands here, this is such a strong choke, all I need to do is sit back and I get a strong finish the whole way through. Make sure you keep your partner's knee and keep a strong grip in the collar. But those are 3 variations of a bow and arrow choke that you will have a lot of success with even if they give proper reactions. Now let's look at a few ways we can finish the bow and arrow choke if we're already on our opponent's back. This will change slightly depending on if you have a weak side seatbelt or a strong side seatbelt, but the good thing is it's the same concept. So here I'm gonna start on Max's back. The first one we're gonna look at is when my seatbelt would be considered weak side. What does weak side mean? My choking hand, or the one that's over his shoulder, is pointed to the ground. And again, if you watch any of my back instructionals, I talk about this a lot. Weak side, strong side, semantics. I generally prefer to attack from the weak side. That's just how it has been categorized in Jiu-Jitsu. So here, I'm on what would be considered the weak side. My right hand's over Max's shoulder. Anytime I have this choking hand on top, I want my head on the opposite side. I want it underneath Max. Now, we're gonna look to do the same kind of choke. So my left hand is gonna pull on Max's collar. I'm gonna strip, and my right hand is gonna come deep. Thumb in, and I make that same concave position with my wrist here, where I would be looking at my wristwatch. My left hand is gonna start to go low, down on Max's collar here. You'll see some people that will look to arch to finish here, but if I wanna set up a full bow and arrow, what I need to do is unweight. So I take my right foot and I'm gonna press on Max's hip. I take my toes up and I'm literally pressing him down and across this way. Now, as my left leg climbs high, my left hand starts to reach to the knee. And I'm going to swing my left leg over, and now I'm going to swing my right leg over and sit up, sitting Max into this full bow and arrow. So, rotate here, Max. Again, from this position, I climb, I reach, and now look how my legs swing. 1, 2. You'll notice I'm in that same position we were if we looked at a bow and arrow choke from a technical mount. Sometimes this leg grip, if you have long arms like me, you feel a little bit short here. So I like to reach and scoop here. And now I do the same finish as a standard bow and arrow. I sit everything back and I get a very strong finish. Okay, so again, from seated, it just looks like this. Here, I make my nice grip. I would press. I reach to the leg. And now look at my legs. Left, right. I sit him down. I cover the shoulder. I can keep on the knee or hook the leg. And I sit everything back. Strong finish on a bow and arrow choke. Okay, one more time. We are here. I'm on this weak side. First, I need a grip. So I strip, I catch. Nice strong grip here. I go low. My right foot starts to step on Max's hip flexor, and I need to physically push him down. I separate my chest from his back. 1. Now my left leg comes over as my left hand reaches to the knee. And I swing this right leg. 1, and sit up 2. I bring everything back. Strong finish on a bow and arrow choke. It's gonna be the same principles when I have a strong side choke. The difference is I'm gonna have trouble with my grip, and I'm gonna have to clear a hook. So if I'm playing the same game, but now this time, my left arm's over. I have a strong side choke here. Now, you'll notice when you strip the grip and you try to put your thumb in, it almost feels too deep. Okay, it almost feels like, in my opinion, like you should just switch to a full-blown rear naked choke. So what I need to do when I make this grip now is start shallowing my left elbow behind Max's head. I'm a little bit leery to do this until I control the wrist. So I like to control the wrist, and now I shallow my left elbow. This is gonna put some pressure on Max, but not enough to tap him. What I'm gonna do from here is strip my own bottom hook. And as I pull my hook free, I'm gonna climb all the way up into a technical mount. Once I get into technical mount, I already have the submission, and I can go 3 different parts. Elbow to elbow, 1. If he tucks his elbow, I take my hand free, I grab the knee. I raise both elbows up, 2. If he kicks his legs straight, I lean, I step, and I cross. And now I sit, bow and arrow choke 3. All from a strong side choke. So one more time, you are on the strong side. My left arm is on the bottom, pointed up. From here, strip, catch. I make that same grip. My right hand goes low or to the wrist. The wrist is what I would prefer. Now I straighten my left elbow. I bring it behind Max's head. I'm going to clear my own hook. As I pull my heel to my butt, I start climbing up into S mount. Once I move into S mount, I go elbow to elbow, chest high, finish. If he tucks his elbow, my hand comes free. I go to the knee, elbows high, finish. If he kicks the leg, I lean, I step, I cross the feet, and finish. So that's a few ways that you can do bow and arrow chokes if you've already started on the back, whether you have a weak side seatbelt or a strong side. It's one thing to have the finishes down for bow and arrows. It's a completely different thing to be able to implement them in your game. And I think sometimes seeing how we can get to these positions is very important. So right now we're gonna look at a few different ways we can get into the position that will set us up for the finishes. The first way we're gonna look at is going to be using a cross knee pass from the closed guard. So everybody, white belts and up, find themselves in closed guard quite often. First thing I'm gonna do is create a nice posture, controlling the posture here in the pants. We're gonna use a cross knee pass by creating a wedge with our right knee up the middle and opening. My right hand's gonna come back, I'm gonna press, post my right foot, and I create this wedge situation. From here, my right hand is gonna come high to Max's collar, my left hand's gonna go to the sleeve. As I drop my right elbow to Max's chest, I'm gonna make a standard cross knee pass, posting my left foot and kicking my right. Now I press my left hand across and I drive Max right into the side seat belt. And so this is where we started our initial bow and arrow attacks from. So now I'm inside seat belt. It's an easy thing. I strip the collar, nice catch. My right hand comes low, I walk him flat, raise, and now I start to walk in to our technical mount. Once I'm in S mount, elbow to elbow choke, he tucks, I'm gonna look to go knee. If he kicks, I'm gonna sit and I'm gonna look to come over the top. Okay, so all of this stems from a cross knee pass. One more time, you're starting here. My partner has his legs locked. I have a nice posture. I'm nowhere near a bow and arrow choke right now. I'm nowhere near the finish. So I need to pass first. I come back, forward, open. My right hand comes back, I press, I post, and look where we are. We're in a wedge situation where I can now start to point my knee, collar and sleeve, I drop. As I step and kick through, I punch Max into this side seat belt, connect my hands, and now we're ready to attack. Stripping the collar, I take it here. As I walk Max flat, now I'm ready to move in to S mount and start going after all my finishes or whichever one you prefer. Another way that we can look to attack the bow and arrow choke is from just a standard mount and using a top arm pin to get there. So we know what it looks like if my partner's inside and I have a side seat belt. But what if Max is flat on his back and I've already mounted him? This is a different story here, okay? I have to somehow get underneath and be able to get a good grip in the collar. There's many different ways that you can do this, but one way that I prefer is to use a top arm pin to get there. Okay, if you've seen our mount pin series, it's all on the website. We like to use pinning to get our partner to the side. So the way I do this is by moving through to our skydive position and now looking to scoop the head, pin the wrist, and control. From this bottom arm pin, the first thing that I'm gonna do is put heat on an Americana to make Max turn and rescue. As he does, I drop. And now you'll notice I catch right and left into a top arm pin. Once I have the top arm pin, I slide up into S mount, and now, you guessed it, we're gonna go into a bow and arrow choke. I strip, reach my hand, and now we have all of our finishes that we just looked at right in front of us to attack bow and arrow chokes. So one more time. We are starting in mount. I need for Max to be on his side if I want to expose his neck. It's a difficult thing for me to think I'm going to reach under and just take his collar. So I need him to turn. How do I get him to turn? My favorite way, pinning sequence. As I come through, we'll go to this side. I scoop and I pin. I'm going to take my right hand underneath and I'm going to start to put heat on Max's elbow here. As I raise my chest. Max turns to rescue. I'm going to drop my chest, take my left hand to his wrist, take my right hand free, and control my own wrist. Now I slide my left knee high, post my right foot. I'm in this top arm pin or a double wrist lock. From here, we need to just switch to the collar. That's the only change we make. I release my right hand, but I keep the left to control Max on his side. My right hand starts to strip, and now I take the left hand deep. I make that nice grip we talked about, and I immediately start coming elbow to elbow. My hand goes to my shoulder, and I press. If Max tucks, I come out, and I take the knee. If he crosses his feet, I lean, I sit, and now we finish a standard bow and arrow choke. So you have multiple different ways that you can attack. I think one of my favorites and the easiest is using a pin series from mount to get into that position. Another situation you might find yourself in that will bring you to a bow and arrow finish is from turtle. There are times when I find myself on the side of my partner in the turtle position where maybe I can't get a seatbelt grip, I can't take the back the way that I like, or maybe I just need a finish and I like the bow and arrow choke. A really simple one from here is to drive my partner into that side seatbelt position. Again, if you've watched how I like to take the back, generally speaking, I prefer a seatbelt. I like to roll to the side and kick my hooks in. I think that's king. But there are times when I need a choke, or there are times where my partner's so strong like Max is here, it's hard to take him over. First thing that we're gonna do, I'm on the side, my left hand's gonna come through, I'm gonna make that same collar grip. My right hand's gonna go low. So as Max, raise your chest for me. Here, this is the grip that I want. My left hand's over. It's not gonna be a super solid grip right now. We're gonna get to that. I just wanna make the grip. My right hand's low on the belly. One thing I need to be cautious of here is leaving my right elbow too deep. I don't want Max to be able to hook on my elbow and roll me through, so I need to make sure that when I make this grip with my right hand, I'm kind of tucking my elbow back. Now, first thing that I'm gonna do is start to draw Max back to the side. What I'm looking to do here is separate our hips. I slide, I post my left knee down, and now look, I'm gonna pull Max in this gap, and I drop him to a hip. If my knee was so close to Max, come back up, like this, if I don't move my right knee away and I try to pull him down, I just run him into my own leg. So what I need to do is actually create like a little bit of distance here. I drop the left knee and I pull him into me. One thing to not forget, come back. If Max is a real pain in the butt to drive over this way, it generally means I can take his back over the top. So what I've found is when I get this grip here, if I pull and Max stabilizes his base, I can now punch a seatbelt and start to throw hooks and just take the back the way that I would prefer anyways, okay? But he's being stubborn, so he's not giving any inch here. So what I wanna look to do is catch. I have my grips, I drop the knee, I separate, I pull him straight down. Once I get to this side, we are in this side seatbelt position. I can strip, make my grip tighter, and now I walk him flat. First thing I do is choke him here. Elbow comes high. Max grabs on my elbow to not get choked. I'm gonna walk hip to hip, step, and slide into S-mount. From here I go elbow to elbow, first choke. As Max tucks, hand comes out, I go on the knee. Make sure you have a good grip on the pants here, and I raise my chest. Third finish, as he kicks his legs straight, I'm gonna lean, step, and sit, and now, good night. I finish a nice bow and arrow choke from that seated position. So this is yet another way you can finish a bow and arrow choke, this time from the turtle position. Guys, if you like this video, you can check out our ultimate guide to turtle attacks right here. And if you like this format of jiu-jitsu, the style, the teaching, you can check out our website, coreprobjj.com. You can click right here, try it for free for 7 days.